Right. Hey there. Welcome to the very first episode of the Product Uncensored show with me, your host, Colin Bell. This is the show where we talk about all things product with product people focusing on Southeast Asia. At least most of the time, that's what we'll be trying to do. Today, we're going to talk product shop, sorry, and we're going to be doing it with someone who I think gives great insight. He's a rising star in the product scene in APAC, all-round super guy, probably except for his choice of football club to support. The first guest today on the hot seat for the Product Uncensored show, Ridzwan Aminuddin. Welcome to the show, Riz.
Hey, hi Colin. I agreed with most of what you said there, except for maybe the football club part and the rising star. I think the only star I am is Star Karat.
Well, in any case, thank you so much for joining the show. By the way, I just forgot. I'm taking this off. Okay. My son actually asked me to wear this just now, so I'm actually indulging him for a bit. But I think now it's time to be a bit more serious. So I take off and put on my big boy pants today. All right. So we're gonna start off by really just talking about Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about yourself? At least in your product journey, lah.
Sure. So first of all, Colin, thanks for inviting me to be your first guest. I hope it turns out good and I don't disappoint you in any way.
You won't.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of my background story. Funny because I was just listening to your podcast recently. I can't recall what exactly was that podcast, but you shared your origin story of how Colin Pell became one of the original or the OG in product management in KL, right? And you said back in school, you were told by your professor or your teacher, whatever it was, that you couldn't cut it as a developer.
Well, not really lah. The exact thing is that my final year project supervisor gave me an endorsement letter, and then she said, no, he deals well with concepts, which sounded like a backhanded compliment as to he cannot code.
Yeah. So funny thing is, it's kind of the same story for me as well. Back in school, I'm from NTU in Singapore, Nanyang Technological University. I did computer engineering, which is kind of computer science with a little bit more hardware thrown in. And I remember in my second year, I think there was a particular class, I think it was called Networking SC204 or something like that, where basically we were given like a massive project right at the end of the course, where we were meant to develop a whole bus ecosystem, a bus terminal ecosystem. And every team was asked to like code a little part, right? Funny thing is, when I was in university, I was still very much into coding. I enjoyed it. I thought I was pretty decent at it. I lost myself hours just coding. I enjoyed that part of my life. But then I met many other people who were much, much better than me. And he knew so much. I remember during that particular subject, I built my part, right? Whatever it was, a bus docking system, whatever it was. And then everyone just came together and said, who's going to kind of pull the whole ecosystem together? And no one knew really what to do. And then a few guys, I remember one Indonesian fella who basically took everything and just kind of connected everything. He did all the APIs and all that. I don't even remember if it was APIs back then. But all I remember was at that point of time, I realized, wow, these guys are miles ahead, right? And if I want to kind of make it in this field, I gotta catch up somehow. So at that point, I guess I reassessed and looked at, what are some of the other strengths that I have personally, like things I think I do well. Communications may be one of my strongest suites, right? And communication, both verbal and non-verbal communication. So I thought, hey, maybe let's try figure something out, like something along project management. So back then, 12, 13 years ago, product management didn't exist, right? I mean, at least in Southeast Asia.
In Southeast Asia, yes.
Yeah. So right out of school, I was really lucky, right? And it's funny how life gives you these little breaks. I was hired right out of school by a British entrepreneur who had started a company that dealt with compliance. So basically a database of the world's riskiest people. And he
Risky
wanted
people.
riskiest people, money launderers, drug traffickers, you name it, right? So this is in the world of KYC, know your customer
Okay, yes, yeah.
compliance.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
sorry. Can
basically
I
back
interrupt
then,
you? Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
yeah.
My very interesting question is, how did you get in touch with that guy, or how did he get in touch with you? Was it, did you apply, or did you guys know each other
No,
from MySpace or something?
the company had a grant with the school.
Right.
So he had links to the school. He basically sent out a message to the professor saying, hey, I'm looking for someone who is technically sound or suitable, but has some business acumen, has some commercial acumen. I've got an idea I want to run, and I want to see if someone can run it out of Singapore for me. So my professor, who I was doing my FYP for, my final year project, got contacted and thought about me, right? And forwarded me to whoever it was. And lo and behold, I got an interview in the middle of Raffles Place. Didn't know what I was in for. I sat down there, and the first thing that they did is they gave me a paper, you know, those technical papers with all the mathematical jargon. And they gave me like half an hour to sit there and read through it. And I thought I was screwed, right? There's no way I'm going to get any of this. But the funny thing is, when he came in, he asked me a bunch of questions. There were some technical questions. He asked me some basic technical questions. But he also was asked, kind of assessing my ability to sell the idea. So he said, if you needed to commercialize this, what would you do? How do you go about it? So all kinds of the very initial inklings of product management thinking, right? Without us even knowing it. He basically took a bet on me, hired me, essentially asked me to build a product. At that point, I didn't know it was a product, right?
Yeah.
I just knew I needed to get something. It was a job. I needed to build something, get it from point A to point B in a desired amount of time within a stipulated budget. And that's what I did for the first 2.5, 3 years of my life in a company called WorldCheck.
Okay.
So project management with doses or hints of product management thrown in. Yeah. Okay. So that's my origin story. That's how I began into the world of project and product management. And that's how I similar to you, figured out in school that, you know, programming was probably not the right path for me.
Well, except for me, I guess the difference was that I actually ended up doing some technical, not development, not coding, but I still did some IT security. Whereas you from the get-go, that's why I said you're a rising star, because right off the bat, right, they already saw it, you know, so they already saw talent there.
So anyway, let me finish my story. So after this company, WorldCheck, I left to try to do a quick startup with a friend. But that same boss reached out to me again and said, Ridzwan, what are you up to? And he hired me into his next startup, which is a company called WealthX. In WealthX, I had a CEO, an American CEO, who was formerly the CIO of Forbes. Right. Okay. So he had background in Silicon Valley and tech, and he's the guy who actually told me I was a product manager. So one day he called me in the middle of the night, because he's in New York, I'm in Singapore. And he says that, you know, this thing doesn't work very well on iOS. The logo kind of looks wonky. I think sizing's off or something along those lines. I can't recall exactly. And then I said, how's that my problem? Go talk to marketing, right? Because it's a logo.
Did you told your CEO?
I didn't say it that way, obviously, right? I'm paraphrasing right now to keep the conversation short. So, so he schooled me. He basically told me to pick up Walter Isaacson's book on Steve Jobs, read about the dude, and he told me that's what product managers do in Silicon Valley, and that's what you are, and you need to adjust your thinking. And that's when I really began to realize, right, quite late into my career, maybe like 4 or 5 years in or something, realizing, hey, there's something called product management. It is quite interesting. It's growing in Silicon Valley. Is there such a thing in Singapore?
But at that time, right? Yeah. But at that time, what was your official title when you joined WealthX?
At WealthX, what was my title? I can't recall anymore.
Because I mean, the part which I find, I mean, it's a fantastic story, you know. But the part which is strange is like, if he said, "Oh, that's what a product manager does," and if that was your title and you didn't know, then, you know, obviously it's a bit of a problem there. Because
I think my title was probably product manager. I cannot remember, but I think it was product manager. Okay. But that shows you, right, the misalignment or the knowledge gap or whatever you might call it, right?
And what year was this? What year was this?
Terrible with years.
I mean, just again.
This was like 4 or 5 years out of school.
Okay, so early
Yeah,
2000s maybe.
maybe somewhere there.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Okay. The only reason why I asked, right, because the company's name is called WealthX, and no disrespect to WealthX, but it sounded like something that at that time, there was this era where you wanted to just put the letter X in everything that you needed to do just to make it sound cool.
As
So
as opposed to I these days,
yeah,
iPhone,
exactly. Before the
yeah.
before the I. So
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember exactly. I'm terribly terrible. We can check my LinkedIn and then figure out what dates those were. But basically, that was 5 years in, and to me, it's a very significant moment in my career because that's when I figured out what I wanted to do. All of us struggle with this, right? We go into our
mm,
careers, we don't really know what we're trying to do. I always thought I was a project manager. In fact, in school, back in university, back in our days when we were younger, systems analyst was the thing to be, right? You
yeah,
work for a large organization like a bank, and then they hire systems analysts, which essentially are glorified project managers to manage technical projects end to end. That was what I thought my brand was, and that's where I thought I was going down. The long
right.
term, I would think myself I'll do a project manager
Hmm.
management role, but
Okay.
only did when I met my CEO, Nicholas Rambus, did he really school me in this and open my eyes. And I decided to carve my future in this kind of direction because I realized I really enjoyed doing it, right? So that's how I ended up, I guess, where I am today. Circumstances in life just carve the paths for you as we go, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So from there, how did you end up at Ninja Van?
Oh, okay. So that's the easy next step to an extension to that story just now.
Okay.
In that I basically spent 7 years in WealthX doing multiple roles, including building the initial product, working on stuff like HR and finance and all this good stuff. I did everything under the sun as in a startup to keep it afloat, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then I realized that I wanted to swing back to what I enjoyed, which was technology and product. At that point, because we were a startup, I did kind of everything, including the CTO role, right? Set up the development team and stuff like that. But I realized at that point that I was doing too many things and I wanted to focus on one area and I wanted to get really good at it. I had built teams at that point, small product teams. I think I had a product team of 4. I have a dev team of 20, 30 people at that point. Still very small, right? If you think about it. And I wanted to expand my repertoire and my experience. So I decided to look for an opportunity. It's also, the company also got bought out at that point by a private equity firm. So they wanted to shift all the operations to New York. I thought at that point it was my time to focus in Singapore and move on to my next thing. 7 years is a long time to be in any organization.
Yeah, that is
Uh,
pretty amazing, man.
yeah. And so I kind of just left the company, took a little time off, started to mingle to figure things out. I happened to chance upon the CEO of Ninja Van at an event. Um, what's it? The General Assembly event. It was part of a panel.
Yep.
And I just happened to talk to him right after the event, and I gave him a little like explanation of what I'm trying to figure out for my career. And then I reached out to him over email and said he asked me to reach out to him on email and talk more. And it just so happened that Ninja Van at that point was looking to begin building out its product practice. Right. This is a typical story of any startup. The founders are the product people at the
First, yeah.
start. The business expands, grows. They need to scale product and technology quickly. They start by hiring all the engineers. They hire a head of engineering, and then they decide, hey, now it's time for product, right? We need to be more targeted and laser focused in how we approach building things. So I kind of just spoke to him at the right time, right? I never expected to move into logistics. My goal was in building a product team. My goal was in taking all the things I learned in the prior years and kind of applying it and building and setting up a new product team. So that's how I ended up in Ninja Van. I was PM or product manager number 2. Anthony Lewa, who you know, was product manager number 1. They had a few product managers before
Right.
that.
So Anthony was the
Yeah.
first product manager.
Not the
Wow.
first. He was before me. There were a few other PMs before me, before
Okay.
him
Okay.
as well. But they never really managed to build out a proper team.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, maybe just timing, right?
Mm.
Companies too early or whatever. I came in at the right time, entrusted to build a team, really excited about the challenge. And I spent a good amount of time of my career in Ninja beginning to put down the fundamental building blocks of building a product team. And I loved every moment of my experience there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to build on that, right? So
Mm,
how was that transition like when, because you joined Ninja Van, you're
mm,
tasked with building the team, and
mm,
basically this is the transition period where the CEO or maybe the CTO, who was it, was holding the product portfolio at that time?
mm.
Would-
I guess CEO and some business leaders. They had some guys who ran certain commercial verticals.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how did that transition happen? So because I think for a lot of people in Southeast Asia, that's a common story, right? Because there are
Mm,
usually two paths for you into product management. You either join a startup where, in the Asian colloquial slang, we say one leg kick, where basically you do everything and then you learn and sort of build your
mm,
way up, or you join
mm,
a big company, basically where you take a small slice of the pie and you basically work
mm,
on that.
mm,
So I guess it'll be very beneficial for them to understand, like if you were the first product leader in an organization, how was
mm.
that how did you manage that transition? Because I think, sorry, and I'm taking a bit more time to explain, right? Because
No
the
problem.
the
Yeah.
CEOs tend to be the first product owners or product managers or head of product, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes the transition or the letting go is a little bit difficult in that sense.
Yeah.
So I'll be keen to know what that transition story was like for you in Ninja Van.
Yeah. So, are you asking from a leadership perspective, though, setting up teams, or are you talking about just pure product management, come take over from the CEO,
I would
like
say
building
both,
teams, or
right?
just take
I would say both,
both?
because when you came in, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that you were hired as the product leader, right? Not just a product manager, right? You were hired to basically set up the product management team and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
product practice, right?
Yeah. Yes. So that's exactly right. I was meant to lead the product team at that point and build on it, right? But it was made clear to me when I was hired that I was meant to also be hands-on
Yeah,
and
as with all
actually do
startups.
stuff. Yeah, you don't really have a choice anyway, right? Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting question, which is very easily answered for me, at least, right? Which is that I hear a lot of people say that, oh, there's a lot of the founders don't want to let go. I'm hired as a product person, but I'm not allowed to make the decisions. I think my answer to that, and actually that terminology is someone told me this. I don't know if you know this. It's called hippo. Have you heard it before? Yeah, I didn't know it was actual term until recently. Highest
As paid
paid
opinion.
opinion, right? Something
Yes.
like that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it was quite interesting. And by the way, I've never heard of one leg kicking. So you must educate me about that saying sometime
It's
else.
a Chinese colloquial saying. So if you understand Cantonese, then you would, it's yak yok tech. So
Is it pao kao liao?
yeah, yeah, something like pao liao. Yes, yes, pretty much.
Okay. So anyway, back to the topic at hand, right? Yeah. So it's actually quite easy for me to answer in that every person, every organization, every product manager that joins a startup will face this situation because the company is the founder's baby. They're not gonna suddenly stop making decisions that might impact the future of the organization, right?
Yep.
And they hired someone with the hope that that someone could guide the organization in the right paths, or someone who has the bandwidth to focus on the problems, listen to the consumers and customers, and advise them on where the vision of the product should move, depending on where the market and how the market is responding. And the answer is very simple. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes time, just like how trust takes time to build, right?
Mhm.
So moving into the organization, having the fact that I was told that I needed to work on stuff was in itself a blessing, right? In that right from the get-go, the first thing I did was to work on a project. So I came in, I think I started in like end November. In December, I already was given a project, right? I had to work with an engineer for the first time, figure things out, understand. And to me, that's an opportunity to demonstrate capability, which built credibility.
Yep.
You do one project, it's a quick win. People know, hey, Ridzwan led that project. He did it pretty well. I heard from so and so that the way they ran it was good and outcomes were achieved. So I think we should give him another one and see how it goes. It's an overnight. It's not an overnight process. It takes time to build credibility. and gain the trust of the CEO, gain the trust of other business owners. I'm not saying that when I left or by the time I'm done with Ninja, Lai Changwen, the CEO of Ninja Van, was not making any product decisions. Not at all true, because that, I think, doesn't ever happen.
Yeah.
Right. The question is whether the CEO trusts the head of product to follow through on a vision that maybe the product, the CPO has kind of laid out, suggested, with the CEO giving some insights, because CPO doesn't know, for example, where the business is headed from, like, say, an investment perspective, a growth perspective, next 5 to 10 years. Given that business perspective, then the CPO kind of follows through with the product visioning, right?
Yeah.
So that will be my answer. It doesn't happen overnight. You just have to focus on building credibility with quick wins, validating your ability as a leader to make those decisions, and those things will naturally happen. I think people who struggle with it, two possible reasons, right? One, they think it happens overnight, or two, they're just not very good at a job, and hence credibility or trust was never built overnight. So maybe time to self-reflect and move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you, because you said there were only two options, right? So would you say that in your experience, at least, you've actually never had a problem or an issue where the founder has this thing called I think what they call it is a founder syndrome. Yeah, where basically they are the founders, it's their baby, and yet when the company needs to scale, they find that they cannot let go. And the common solution to that usually is when they get investment, where they get funding, and this is from a startup perspective for the listeners who are listening in, they usually will come in with conditions, right? Okay, if I'm going to pump in X amount of money, I need so and so equity. I also need business decision making powers and things like that. And sometimes what they do is they then say that it's time for the founder to move on. But I didn't hear you mention that. So I'm just curious to know whether it's because you feel that from your personal perspective, you've never encountered that, or you feel that that's actually not an issue in general, and it's usually, like you said, the second option, where it's the product person who needs to reflect and see whether they are compatible with the leadership or the founder or the CEO.
Yeah, I think maybe I've been blessed, right? I've never been in an organization so hardcore that it's A all the way, and you got to follow the directions 100%. All my organizations I've been in, I can tell you that CEO has always set the long-term vision, right? I mean, if your CEO is not setting the long-term vision, something else is wrong, right?
That's a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's a bigger problem altogether, right? So
yeah.
But I've always found myself able to have a conversation, discuss, lay out my disagreement, right? Allow rationalization of decision making to happen, and then either making peace with that decision and understanding what my role is in executing that strategy, or finding that I totally disagree with it, and if it doesn't change, I'm not willing to continue. Sorry, I've never found myself in that latter place.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've been quite blessed. In general in agreement, or I would even raise my hand and say, in most cases, I think I would not know better, and I would trust the CEO's decision or CEO's vision. That he's managed to sell to a bunch of VCs or whoever else has pumped in money to the organization, right? So never felt that strongly about it before.
Okay.
Maybe it's a good time for me to self-reflect on why that's the case, right?
I don't know, but you are the product leader, right? So that's why I'm very keen to hear from your perspective. But yeah, thanks. That's good stuff. Let's move to the next question. So at Ninja Van, when you joined, right? In terms of a product leadership position, so this is a product leadership question. What was the first thing that you did? Which part of the product leadership aspect in terms of building the team did you think was the most important at Ninja Van?
For building the team?
Yeah. I mean, or setting the product practice, right, like in that sense. I guess it's a general question, but it's more a leadership question.
I got such a cookie cutter answer for you.
Hey, Rich, you there? Hello. Hello there.
All right, sorry, we're back. I think there was a little bit of a technical connection issue just now. So I'm going to repeat the question for you. So I was saying just now, like when in a product leadership position, right? What was the first thing that you looked at to either improve or to implement in Ninja Van?
Yeah. So cookie cutter response is everyone who starts a new job reads that book first 90 days. First 90 days states that the first thing you gotta do is meet people, blah blah blah. But one of the things you focus on is quick wins, right?
Yeah, put some wins on the board.
Yeah, quick some wins on the board. The first thing I do as a product leader, obviously in the background, is to try to figure. It's all about assessing the situations, assessing the organization, figuring out who are the power players, where the center of gravities are. There's another term I like to use when kind of talking to my PMs.
All the jargons all coming out now, thick and fast.
It's made up. It's made up jargon, right? In every organization, you got folks who are stronger, who have a stronger influence on, say, company direction, technical direction, you name it, right? As a product leader, you got to go in there and you got to quickly figure these things out, right? Once you figure this thing out, you got to come up with a strategy. What's your short-term, medium-term, long-term kind of approach to building out product culture in the organization? And based on that strategy, then you got to align yourself. It's a lot like politicking, right? A little bit of that politicking, a lot of strategy, and then also figuring out the fundamental nuts and bolts. So, for example, when I first went into the Ninja Van, there's a lot of let me put it, decision making. There's a lot of influence or roadmap influence based on technical capability or technical focus.
Yeah.
So how did we as product managers focus on integrating with the engineers? So I assess a lot of things, like basic things like Scrum, agility, mindset, introducing it in different ways. So in a nutshell, to answer your question, first thing to always focus on is quick wins to build credibility with leadership and folks that matter. But from a product leadership perspective, moving into an area is really about reading the organization, figuring out where the levers are, understanding where the center of gravities are, understanding who are the power players in the organization, who you need to kind of figure out how to align with, when to align with. And this is what I think differentiates a run-of-the-mill product manager to an incredible product manager. This intangible ability, or is that the word? Intangible ability.
Intangible.
Yeah, to be able to read rooms. I used to say this a lot to my guys. I think they got sick of it, so I stopped saying it. But I said that we need to be more like CIA agents, So you watch movies where CIA agents are tested during their training. They go in a room, and then 2 seconds later, they are blindfolded, and they say, "What's in the room?"
Yes. Hey, wasn't that FBI training?
FBI or CIA? I call it CIA.
One of those things, like one of those things. Yeah. Okay.
And that's I tell my guys that a very effective product guy, product managers, we're kind of like the grease between the wheels. We're not good at anything very specific. We're not technical. We don't write code. We're not accountants. We don't specialize in whatever financial activities or revenue or whatever stuff like that, right? We're kind of a grease between all these wheels. So how do you get respected to help facilitate things along? You've got to know how to get things to move. And to know how to get things to move, you've got to have this ability to read people, room, environments, things. And in a meeting, it's about timing. It's about all this good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I'll get back to that part where you say, you're telling your guys, you got to read the room and things like that. We'll come back to that a little later. But now I want to move on to you, where you currently are at. You're currently at Kupang, right? Is that how it's pronounced? Kupang.
Kupang.
Okay, Kupang. What does it mean, first of all?
It's no meaning, actually. It's because the organization started off e-coupons, Groupon. So Kupang sounds like coupon in Korean. So that's how they named the company Kupang, in line with the Korean version of the word coupon. Right, this is the era of Groupon. Yeah. Okay. But the company pivoted into e-commerce later on. So that the name just stuck. The name's been with us all the way.
Yeah. Because like in Bahasa, right, Kupang in slang is basically your coins. And I was wondering whether there was an obscure, no link to that. So I'm just very curious.
That would be too far.
Okay. So what, most importantly, what made you decide to move from Ninja Van to Kupang? Now, for the listeners, right, just to give you a bit of context and background. So Ninja Van is a logistics giant, I would say, one of the leaders in the startup space for logistics in Southeast Asia, right? I believe it was in Singapore, it's in Malaysia, it's in the Philippines. Where else?
Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia.
Yeah, so basically almost every single Southeast Asian country already.
Yeah.
And Kupang, on the other hand, is, I think in Rich's own words, I've heard him speak at another conference before. It's like, sorry, I was reading up about you. I think you mentioned that Kupang is like the Amazon of Korea or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's in Korea and it's in e-commerce space. So yeah,
Yes.
what made you decide to make that move from Ninja Van to Kupang?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to like lay it out there that I had a tremendous time and experience in Ninja Van. I was actually very happy there. I was building a team. I enjoyed what I was doing. But at the same time, opportunities arise that make you think about where you want to head with your life and your career. And I kind of put that in two separate buckets. Life, because fact of the matter is my wife and I, we've been in Singapore our whole lives, born, bred, educated in Singapore. We didn't study overseas. And so we wanted to, one of the bucket list items on my list is to experience life in a different continent, abroad. And, you know, we've always thought about living in, say, in the States or UK or Australia or whatever it is. Never thought about South Korea, but the opportunity presented itself and it got me thinking about what might be potentially the benefits of taking on a role as such, right? I could have carried on in Ninja Van and grown with them and proceeded with my career there, but I thought this opportunity gave me, this opportunity would push me in ways that I would never have been pushed had I stayed in Ninja Van or even perhaps gone to a larger organization like Grab in Singapore, right? And I can share with you guys a little bit about why I think so. But essentially, I wanted to be put out of my comfort zone, but also have a very good upside, right? So working in Kupang, we've got a good upside. It's doing very well as an organization. Obviously, they take care of us very well. And I get to give my family this opportunity and this experience of living abroad. It's not only for myself, but also for my kids because they get a good education here, different education.
Yep.
So it's a lot of reasons kind of pulled into one that kind of came at the right time and moment. I mean, yeah. So that's essentially how I can put it.
Okay.
Yeah. The funny story is we were together in Vietnam last year when all this was happening, and I didn't tell anyone about this, and we were in the same room at Product Tonic in
okay, I thought when you say we are talking about you and your wife, it was like, oh.
No. In Taiwan, sorry, not Vietnam.
Taiwan. Okay. So sorry, again, context for the listeners. So Rids and I are part of this product collective in Southeast Asia called Product Tonic, and we started having these yearly retreats. So the first one was 2 years ago, which we had in Bali, and then last year it was in Taiwan. Vietnam was supposed to be this year, but it got canned because of COVID. So yes, please continue. So this was in Taiwan, yes.
Yeah, we were in Taiwan at the same time, and I was in conversation with Kupang at that point. Everyone knew me as the Ninja Van PM, and it was all happening during the conference as well. So there were times that I left the room to have long conversations.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's why you were like nicely going on. I thought, and here I was, getting worried for you. See, we're having like marital problems, or wife giving you grief about.
That was so hilarious. I couldn't tell anyone. So when people say, "Are you having any issues? Can I help you?" Blah blah blah. That was so funny. Yeah. But that was about the same time you were talking to Cater Spot, right?
Those were no. That was slightly later. It was actually much later.
Okay.
Yeah, no contact then yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was it when they? So sorry, by the way, just to clarify first, they reached out or did you reach out? I'm guessing they reached out, right?
They reached out, yeah.
Wow. So again, like I said, guys and girls, this is the rising star of APAC. Kupang from Korea reached out to the to the head honcho of Ninja Van Singapore. Okay.
We got to stop that.
But it's true, right? I mean, like I said, right? This show is about leaders and products, Southeast Asia. You've not only done that in Southeast Asia, you've now moved on to Greater Asia as well. So I mean, you can't fight with facts, right?
I thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Thank you. That's where we go. All right. So what was the push factor for you? What was the push factor for you?
Push? No
The-
push. They pulled me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry. What was
Yeah.
it that made you decide that I'm gonna do this, right? Because you're saying that there was family, there was your personal dreams, and putting yourself in an uncomfortable or rather in a challenging position. But what was that like one thing that finally made you say that this is it? This is the reason why I would go. If I had to say, out of everything that you've just mentioned, or maybe you didn't even mention, but just that one thing.
I think it's personal growth, personal branding. Professional growth, professional branding. So basically, I don't know if you've read one of my blog posts on Medium about time machine, the DeLorean.
No, I didn't. I didn't read that one actually.
Never do background research.
Hey, I read your other post, okay? Just didn't read that one. Damn it.
Okay. It's quite a lengthy one, so maybe you don't really need to read it. But one of the things I wished, if you ask me what superpower I wish I could have, right? The superpower is, say, I wish I had a time machine. I wish I could turn back time and do things again, but with the state that I was in the future.
Okay.
Right? So imagine your brain, you growing through the years, you can save that state, go back in time and reuse that state.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, I was listening to an Elon Musk podcast about this, and apparently he's trying to make that happen for real.
Neural networks.
We can talk about that separately or offline. So basically, if I reflected back on my career as a product person, every single step of the way, I now feel like I could have done it 100 times better. I think everyone kind of knows that, right?
Of course.
But it brings about this consideration of conscious or unconscious ability or knowledge, right? Like, for example, you're in an organization today, you are the product lead, you've set up stuff, you know there's more things you got to do.
Yep.
But have you done everything that you can do, or have you done what you need to do as well as you could, right? And every time I kind of think back, now I am in Kupang and I've spent a year at Kupang and I've learned a bunch of things. And if I could take that, save the state of mind that I have now, get into a time machine and go back to Ninja Van, I tell you I would have done it 20 times better. Differently.
But I suppose, that's the common saying, right? In hindsight, everybody has 20/20 vision, right? And we can't do that.
But so here's my point. If I had stayed in Ninja Van, would I have grown as much as if I had not moved?
Right.
So it would have grown if I had as much as when I've moved. Sorry.
Okay.
Right? And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with. They stay in jobs for loyalty and because they're comfortable. I'm not saying those are bad things, especially at times like COVID, but when there are opportunities to move, I think you got to consider, and people always consider this, will I grow? Will I learn? Will I become a better product person in the future? And at Ninja Van, I was like the head product guy, right? And I didn't really have a mentor or anyone to kind of guide or grow me in anymore. But at Kupang, I'm a small fish in a big pond, right? And I'm learning a lot every day, right? Because I'm seeing different product guys doing things in different ways. The director of product for Carousel just joined Kupang recently. So that's the pedigree of people that's coming in. You've got plenty of Amazon guys coming out, Walmart guys coming in, Flipkart guys coming in. E-commerce is such a large spectrum, right? It also allows me to move away from logistics and look at stuff like fulfillment, like front store e-commerce, business. So there's so much to learn, and I'm coming here and my eyes are like wide open. At the same time, I'm super uncomfortable because I don't know so much, right? And I think that's when you learn the most. They always say that every book you read, right, you must be uncomfortable, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. That's when you learn, blah, blah, blah. So I wish And that's why I push myself to keep getting uncomfortable, keep learning more, because I feel that in retrospect, if I didn't, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. And maybe one day I will get that DeLorean machine. Maybe I will have that opportunity. To go, I get hired by a startup that's looking to build their product team or improve the product team again. I can take all these capabilities I have and knowledge I have and redo it. And that would be a dream for me. I would love that opportunity. In our conversations personally also, I tell you, if I could choose to move to another organization right now, I would move to an organization that had extremely good
Product practices.
A/B testing, data statistics, because that's an area I think I'm not very well polished in. And I want to like spend a year or 2 years, right? Like really experiencing and learning and struggling in an organization that does A/B testing, for example, very well.
Yeah, the ones who do it to like a specific science and like to the very last pixel, that kind of zoomed in focus on it, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I think I made a decision to do the move. And that's how I find myself here today in South Korea.
Okay. So this is actually a really good segue into the next part of the question that I wanted to ask you, because you're in a very interesting position, right? So you are a product leader who established himself in the Southeast Asian scene. You've now uprooted yourself, taken a new challenge in Korea, South Korea, by the way, and you're also on the Product Management Festival board for APAC. And so you've also had experience with looking at the scene in general for Southeast Asia, based on all the submissions and things like that. What would be your thoughts on the product scene in Southeast Asia, based on everything that you've experienced, based on everything that you know? What are your thoughts on it in terms of maturity and maybe also in terms of where you think product leaders or product managers even are sort of lacking, and where we need to sort of step up to the plate?
Wow, that's a big question, right? Many different parts.
So maybe let's break it down. But let's start with, what are your thoughts on the product scene in Southeast Asia, having experienced what you have, knowing what you know now?
I think the product scene in Southeast Asia is extremely exciting. It's bubbling. I think I've heard that word used so many times. It's like fizzing, right? A lot of things are happening, picking up. I think it's fueled by the growth of all the heavyweights like Grab and Gojek.
All the unicorns.
Like pulling in all these product people from across the world. Companies like Booking are setting up base there. Companies like Indeed stepping up base there. Very interesting, right? And in reference to my previous point, I said that in Ninjavan, I was the head product guy and I didn't really have a mentor. That's how I began reaching out to you guys, right? Because I needed support. I wanted to learn, but there wasn't really that availability within the organization. So I began looking out. So I began exploring the community. And that's where I got the support from. Support, I mean, it's still very much like a niche area, very nuanced. Go by the road and ask anyone, do you know what a product manager does? No one can answer you properly still. But it's bubbling, it's fizzing, it's growing. There's events every week, right? Whether it be UX related or product related, more and more people want to be product managers. If you go speak to undergraduates in schools like SMU, they begin to know what it is. It's basically fueled by the app economy and all this stuff that's happening, right?
Yeah, now startups are sexy, tech is sexy as well. So then you're seeing all these investments, really huge investments going, well, at least pre-COVID. Well, there are still some investments during COVID, but not so much, I guess. Okay.
I think in Southeast Asia, extremely healthy. If you ask me to like compare it to maybe like the States or I think you've pointed it out before, there are certain areas where the traditional Asian cultures kick in. And you mentioned before in some of your other talks that you've noticed that authority is a big problem. Direct communication still a challenge. These things still exist, but at the core of it, I think the essence and the spirit of product management is there and growing in Southeast Asia. I think it's a very exciting place to be. So I think we'll catch up with the rest of the world really quickly. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I really hope so, because I think Southeast Asia, like you say, it's exciting and everything, but I still get the feeling that we kind of can't grow up fast enough. We're stuck in that stage where we want to grow, but we don't have to take our time, and just like a teenager can't wait to grow up kind of thing. So I really hope that is the case. Yeah.
Is that a
So
personal reflection?
no,
Bunch of
not
guys
really.
bunch of guys wearing
Oh,
snapbacks on a podcast. Maybe we're the ones who are stuck in the past.
oh,
Need to grow up.
savage. So then I would say then, right, if that is the case of how you think the scene is, what would your advice be to aspiring product leaders who are currently in Southeast Asia? And I guess sorry, something went in my eye.
Are you crying?
um, and I'm specifically saying this as to people who are product managers who are from Southeast Asia, who are trying to build themselves up. Like, what would you say to them? Versus, because one of the other things that has been a very popular topic of discussion these days is also the sort of like import of product talent from other countries. So if you're a sort of local, Southeast Asian local in that sense, what would be your advice to them?
I think maybe this stems back to, again, Asian culture. I don't know if you call it being introverted or being more
Reserved.
reserved. In my time in Ninja, kind of facilitating the growth of the junior PMs that came under my wing, I used to really push them on two things. I'm not sure if it was because it was kind of the phase of my life and I was focused on that, but I used to tell them that you got to go out and put yourself out there to meet other people in the community, to speak to them, to grow networks, because that's a critical part of growth as a product manager. And in many cases, I found that a lot of them were either didn't really want to do it, were afraid to do it, or uncomfortable to do it. And I found that as a product leader, when I put myself out there, I did it late, right? 5-6 years into my career, then I began to really go out to the community and explore and meet people. I find that if I built the networks much earlier, I think I would have grown much faster. So what I mean by building networks is not going to a meetup, seeing someone, copying, getting their business cards, going home and adding them to LinkedIn. My version of meeting people doesn't stop there. My version of meeting people is beyond adding on LinkedIn, try to get a phone number, have a connect on WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever it is, begin having conversations, ask the guy out for a coffee, spend a good hour with that person, connecting, understanding who they are as a PM, and trying to build a relationship beyond a professional realm, moving into friendship, right? And that allows you a whole new paradigm of conversations and a safety net that you can lean on when you are in trouble, when you have problems at work, when you're not sure whether you're doing something right. It gives you that additional layer of confidence and that safety net, right? Allowing you to grow. So that's what I would say to all PMs, junior PMs out there: spend the effort, invest the time to go out and build the networks. Maybe with not people who are more senior than you, maybe build it with people who are similar to you in terms of experience in product, and build that community and network, because it will serve you for the long term.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. The second thing, though, is basically expressing yourself and writing as much as you can. Like, I used to tell my guys, go write a Medium. Right? In fact, funny story is like the KPI for them, one story per, was it a quarter or half a year? I can't remember. Right?
Yeah, that
3-minute read on Medium or whatever, because I wanted to just build that.
You just wanted to challenge them.
Yeah, get them used to writing it, right? Because I think it puts your name out there, it builds your brand. You might cringe at your work, but the beauty of Medium is you can just delete it later on. Or edit it, right? Whatever it might be. It's a very safe space to kind of express your thoughts, as simple as they were. We had interns join us, and one of my requirements was at the end of the internship, 1 Medium post. So if you go to a Medium right now and search for like Ninja Van product internship, you'll see those. And I think it's a very way to kind of build your brand, expand yourself. So these are the two things I would say to any junior young PM trying to expand their repertoire in Southeast Asia, get better at what they do. Build those networks because they will help you in your job. They will help you in future jobs, sometimes securing future jobs.
Yeah.
At the same time, they help you fine tune yourself because you have a set of peers that you can kind of lean on and maybe measure yourself against as well.
Okay. Yeah, but I like the point where you say, when you're talking about building networks, it's not just about, getting name cards. Well, nobody really uses name cards much these days. But the idea is that you're going there and you're really trying to speak to them, learn from them. And I think that's something, personally for me, I resonate a lot with. Because I think the beauty about the meetups, it's not so much about putting your face there and things like that, but really being able to learn from not just people who are more senior than you, but also learning from peers. I want to recount this story. So was it 2 years ago? I think 2 years ago, right? When Ritz actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm in KL. I'm going to be in KL, and I want to sit down and talk to you." And he actually came to my office and actually sat down for, I think you said 1 hour, but I think it was closer to 2 hours. Really, just talking about how we set up our product teams. What we thought worked well, what didn't work well, and that is, I really thought that was something very interesting, and it was definitely a tactic that I've not seen being used often enough. And if you're a product leader in Southeast Asia at the moment, I think that's a fantastic way to really build that kind of network of not just listen to somebody talk, but really being able to compare notes. So that is something that I can assure everyone listening that Rich doesn't just talk about it, he's actually done it. And I know he's done it with not just me, but even a few other people who are in a product leadership position. So I think that's really, really fantastic.
This is living proof, right? If I never did that, maybe I won't be on this podcast. You wouldn't invite me. It works. It works.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I wanna sort of almost wrap this up. And I think one of the things that I asked you to do before we started the show was to actually think about a song that you would like to actually share with the listeners or the community of the Product Uncensored people. So I know that a lot of you guys listening also, you'd be like, what on earth? Like, so let me give you a bit of rationale. I'm huge into music, and I feel that music is an expression of the person, an expression of emotions. And some people don't speak very well, but they just have music just channels it, right? And so this is something that I'll be doing with every single guest that comes on the show. I'll ask them to actually suggest a song. So Ritz, why don't you tell us about the song that you suggested? I'll put the link here, somewhere on the if you're on the video, there'll be a link on YouTube. If you're on the podcast, I'll put it in the description. But yeah, Ritz, why don't you tell us a little bit about the song that you chose and maybe why you chose it? What did you like about it? Yeah.
So this particular request threw me off.
You want it to be challenged, right? You want to be in the uncomfortable.
Never have I, in my experiences being talked to people or webinars or interviews, if anyone asked me, like, what's a song that best represents you, right? I think I had a challenge with this because, the funny thing about me is when I listen to music, I'm not a lyrics guy. I'm a melody guy. I'm a rhythm guy. I listen to music for the aesthetic pleasure it brings. I don't dive into lyrics. I'm not a lyric hunter, right? I don't try to assess what it means and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a challenge. Okay. And then you ask me, what's the song that best represents? I can go to my naive youth and pick a lot of silly songs that I'm not sure. It's actually quite a good painting of who I was internally, but could also be a stereotype. So So I kind of tried to think about more recently what would be an expression of who I've become. And this song is by a lady named Brandy Carlisle. I think she only became really famous in the past 2-3 years. She made an appearance at the Grammys with this particular song. And number one, she has incredible vocals. the song is such a, what do you call it, a heart wrencher, right? The way it's run, sang, the way the melody goes, it's such a heart wrencher. It's one of those things that you can just like close your eyes at night and kind of get lost in the music, right? And
Does
that's
this
what
fall? Does it fall under the what the Malays would say, like lagu jiwang? Is it?
Oh yes, man, but different variation of it.
Okay,
Different
okay.
variation of it for sure. Because she's got country twang to it, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So a lot of people say that this song was written um, when the Trump administration took over, and she wrote this for all the people who were forgotten, right? So if you look at the lyrics, it's for all those guys who people forget because it's always fading in the background. No one cares about them. The chorus is so wonderful. The chorus just says, it basically says, just focus on who you are and what you want to do. And one day that song will be sung for you. You will emerge, right? And you will be victorious in your own ways, obviously, right? And I thought that this song was a good representation of where I am as a person. I make decisions on my career, my life. My wife and I make decisions about our family. We trust each other. We believe that these are things that we want to do. And no matter what the naysayers say, no matter what other people might think about what we want to do, it's as long as you're comfortable with your decisions, you will somehow emerge victorious in your own ways. And ultimately, you will be at peace and you'll be happy with the decisions you make. And that's how life goes. And ultimately, though, it's a wonderful song, rhythmically, melodically. So I recommend anyone who's not listened to it to go listen to it. Yeah, so that's kind of how I chose this song.
Oh, that's like super deep, man. Like, okay.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like whoa. Wow, very very interesting. Very very interesting.
By the way, she's got amazing other songs as well. There's a song about mothers. This song. So check out Brandy Carlisle if you haven't. Incredible singer.
Nice. So yeah, for those of you listening, yes, the links will be somewhere lah. And yeah, please go listen to it. So just before we close, do you have any parting words, famous last words, words of wisdom, pearls, whatever they want to call it? Yeah.
Famous last words.
I mean, if you don't have it, it's okay. I'm just
I have.
Give you the opportunity to.
Okay. I think I would sum up like my own personal manifesto, right? Which is to find your DeLorean loop early and iterate yourself to improve as much as you can.
Wow. That's gonna be the definition of you,
Really?
Yeah, the DeLorean is gonna stick with you.
Ridzwan mumbles when he's unconscious.
All right. Thank you so much, Ritz. I really want to thank Ritz for agreeing to be on today's show, for really taking the time. We actually had a little bit of hiccups because obviously I'm in Malaysia, he's in Korea, and the internet hasn't been super cooperative. So I'm really, really thankful that he took the effort to try. We tried again. And if you have enjoyed today's show, if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe. Again, I don't know how this works, right? People just point random places and I'll put it afterwards. Or download. If you're listening on podcast, please download or follow. And if you want to see more, I also have some writings on Product Uncensored website, which is at www.productuncensored.com. If you have any questions, or if you want to listen to some more topics that are relating to Southeast Asia and product management or products, you can email me at productuncensored@gmail.com. So yeah, please leave comments, give me feedback, give Rich feedback as well, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much and stay safe, everyone.